Hello and welcome to another edition of the show. My name is Iretiola. Now, if you're a consumer of Nollywood and all things artistic, you would know that indeed and of the truth, we're in the middle of a renaissance. There's just a new burst of energy and talent out there. It's immense. Both features on today's edition of the show are on two modern-day poets who use their words to inform, educate, and more importantly, heal.
My name is Titilope Shonuga. I am a poet, former engineer, sometimes actor. I was born and raised in Lagos, moved to Canada when I was 13, and I stayed there until when I returned to Nigeria. I always had a love for design. I actually wanted to do architecture first, and I thought, okay, he recommended, since I was good at the sciences, might be able to combine both, try engineering, so I did. I don't know that I loved it. I think I just did it because we had left Nigeria when I was 13, moved to Canada, and they basically gave up their lives for my sisters and I so we could have a shot at something else. So it was very important to choose something that felt like a serious, like you have to be a doctor or an accountant, that kind of thing. So I chose engineering because I was good at it, but not because I really loved it. I had a lot of really great opportunities along the way. And so poetry was always there. Poetry was always there in some ways, but it always felt like a hobby. I didn't really consider that I could make a life out of it. So I did the engineering sort of to satisfy my parents and to make them happy and to make them feel like their journey to Canada was worthwhile. But poetry came along and sort of eclipsed the rest of my life. The lines drawn in the sand, the waves goodbye, the closed chapters, Pandora's boxes pulled open, these hands clasped in prayer, or pressed against the heart, searching for honest work, for a story to lay down, for the daily redemption of truth-telling, these hands, not unlike my father's, an engineer with the whole city beneath his fingers, connecting piece by piece like a row of Lego blocks to build a road that his infant daughter would one day follow. This path laid out by masterful design for this girl who was too much water, this girl with the heart of a dreamer, this girl with her head in the clouds, and the clouds would come. Quiet like a thief in the night, taking just a little bit at a time, not enough for us to notice until so much was already gone. My earliest memory of storytelling, my mother, whenever she would go away for a holiday or something, she would leave me with a notebook and ask me to write whatever my sisters did, just report them in these stories. I would just make up whatever I wanted to. So I remember always having a love for storytelling and writing. I draw, I always had my hands in something. Poetry just felt like the most natural outlet. I didn't really know how to articulate myself, and so I started to write these stories and these poems. I had never considered saying them out loud. And then I had an English teacher actually in grade 10 who read something that I had written, and she was like in tears and she was really moved, and I thought, oh, this is kind of strange. I kind of like this feeling. I liked the attention. I guess it sounds really egotistical to say, but it felt like something I could maybe continue, and I started to really consider writing. The leap from writing on a page to performance was a big one for me because speaking to a room full of people, like, who does that? Why? I remember the first time I went to perform, it was at a cafe. There were probably like 10 people there, but to me it was 100 people. And I had this 30-second poem that I had memorized, and I thought to myself, just remember the words, just remember the words. I went up there, I blacked out, I said whatever I wanted to say, and I left. It was super nerve-wracking. But I also became addicted to it's one thing to write something on a page and it goes wherever, but to get the immediate reaction from people, the immediate feedback, I wanted that. And so I started to crave more opportunities to perform, even as a way of checking, is this thing that I'm writing, is it good, is it not good, do people like it, do they care? And so I started doing it more. I actually started my own poetry nights along the way, and I guess I never stopped.
Overflowing ancient African tales by moonlight, that informal education connecting and overlapping modern history. I am fast and fluent Yoruba, crisscrossing English, hidden messages in prose and proverbs, call it Yorubanglish. I am rich high life rhythms, marrying heavy hip-hop beats, that pop-locking, 1-2 stepping, blended over back-bending.
So acting for me happened quite by accident. I hadn't considered it. As a kid, I remember doing these little plays at school. My uncle used to make us do these funny little plays, but that was the extent of it. And so It was something that I hadn't considered, but when it presented itself, I was in a time in my life where I had just recently moved back to Nigeria, and I was in this like say yes to the universe place where whatever came my way, I was going to say yes to it. And I was performing poetry at a venue in Lagos, and the writer of the show was there, and she said, "You look like Eki." So, you know, like, have you ever considered acting? I hadn't, but I thought, just say yes to the process. The worst that can happen is you go for this audition, you embarrass yourself, you tell your friends about it, you laugh, you move on. But then I got the part. And I think a lot of that happened because Eki is a character that is like, I didn't have to reach very far outside of myself to play Eki. She just feels like the everyday girl. I don't know that if I was asked to play like some, you know, I don't know, something that felt very far away from me that I could, maybe, I don't know. But I was willing to try, and I'm glad that I did because the response was really awesome. Poetry and writing has sort of always existed on the page. Spoken word is sort of a new idea for people, but it's an idea that people are rallying around, and there's a lot of momentum around it. So I've had a lot of really fantastic opportunities that have allowed me to earn a living as a poet. People often will ask, how do you eat? Like, what do you do? But I think a lot of things happen along the way that have placed me in positions to allow other things to happen. So I got invited to perform at the inauguration, which was a huge leap for my career. The next question being about what's your budget, can you pay, is new. We're making leaps and bounds, and for me, it's been good, but I think it could definitely be better. So people will say, I'm a writer, I love writing. So how much have you read? How many workshops have you gone to? Have you actually put in your 10,000 hours of the work of honing this craft such that when you do decide that you're going to leave your job behind, the opportunities are presenting themselves because the work is ready? I would say if you have the luxury of having a job at the moment and you're testing the waters on being a writer, do that for as long as you can. Take up as many learning opportunities as you possibly can. And then, you know, feel out what feels ready, what feels like it's the next move. I think that voice is on the inside. I can't say don't quit your job or quit your job. Do what feels like it's the next step, but be sure that you actually love this thing as much as you say you do. Because I think a lot of people like the idea of it, they don't like the work of it. Because poetry is such a diverse thing, so what is poetic and poetry to me is very different from what is poetry and poetic to somebody else. But I think on a basic level, a command of the language, whatever language that is, it may not necessarily be English. People are writing indigenous languages all over the world, which is great. But even like this innate ability to tell stories and to connect to the human experience. The skill sets of a writer, I think, vary from person to person. So I think the most important part is having, in the very least, a command of language, whether it's in English, whether it's in your indigenous language, and being able to manipulate that language in a way that is interesting and new. Being able to articulate human experiences, take a feeling of love or anger or sadness, and being able to say it in the words that people don't necessarily think of, is a skill to have. I don't know how you learn that skill, because I feel like that's the next question you're going to ask me. I think maybe you just, you learn by living. My hope is that these small steps open up the doors for all because there are poets upon poets in this city who are just waiting for an opportunity, and I hope that we can all just kind of like carry this movement along. We'll get there, we'll get there.
I am standing in the light of the everlasting, and each step appears before me just in time. I make a victory dance of my stumbling blocks. I am reaching for my waymaker. I am holding on to his hand. Wherever he leads me, I will go. Wherever I go, I multiply, so I am
I think the contemporary Nigerian woman is a force to be reckoned with, actually. Particularly because we come from a generation of women who are willing to do things that our mothers didn't think they could or didn't even want to. Style is personal. Loud talkers, body odor, and people who butt in line when you've been standing in the queue for ages. Maybe accessories. What else can't I live without? I'm a jumpsuit girl. I don't know. Dresses are funny for me, so some kind of trouser situation. Yes. The bat wing brows, suicide. Bad shoes. I love really nice shoes, even if they're simple and delicate, but bad, those shoes that have this shape that you can't really understand. And a bad bra, actually. I learned that as a busty gal. I learned the key to any outfit is a bra that actually fits you. So you start under and then dress it up. The guiding principles on how I live my life: do unto others as you want them to do unto you. So this idea of kindness in choosing friendships, in choosing partners, in choosing who you will become, being kind to people is a big deal to me. So you don't know where in your life these people will come in again or leave, but being able to leave an imprint of kindness in their lives is a big deal.
Now, if you have never caught Titilope in concert, you have to. It's not just a show, it's a spiritual journey. Her words have the ability to capture emotions you didn't even know existed. All right, we're going to take a short break and then we'll be back with the rest of our show. Welcome back. Now, Wana was first of all a delightful and beautiful voice on the radio. Then she became a beautiful face on our television screens. But at the core of that is a poet.
My name is Wana Udobang. I am a broadcaster, writer, poet, and curator. I also have recently added filmmaker and performer to it as well. I went to primary school here in Lagos, Nigeria, which was St. Leo's Catholic Private School in Ikeja. Then I went to secondary school in Ibadan, Command Secondary School Ibadan. And then after that, I went to the UK. I moved to the UK when I was 16, did my A-levels, and then studied journalism at university. So my university was called the University for the Creative Arts. And so there I studied journalism, but I majored in radio broadcast and production, did a minor in features writing. Because I was in an arts university, all my colleagues were filmmakers, digital artists. So I was just immersed in this huge space. So because you're in a creative arts school, you're basically submerged in arts. I decided to start coming to Nigeria. I came on holiday the first time, and I'm one of these people where when I call it holiday, I must tie in work with it. So I got an internship at Silverbird. I think that was my first major baptism into the entertainment industry here. I think that was 2007. It was literally 3 days or so after my graduation, and I started working at Silverbird, Rhythm. Things were just evolving and appearing. I mean, 10 years before, a lot of these, there were only about 2 radio stations. Many things didn't exist, but now it was just like there was a vibrant, creative atmosphere. I think I felt like something was emerging, and I would love to be a part of that thing that was emerging. So I was doing freelance journalism as well, but I had a day job as a recruitment officer at British Transport Police. And my contract came to an end, and then I had finished one of the other BBC freelance jobs I was doing. And so I just thought to myself, you know what, I think I should just take a year's break and go to Nigeria. And then I came and I never left. One of the key things for a lot of young people who are here to start doing is start being very solutions-oriented. You're so engulfed in the problems, you don't see anything else. All you ever see is problems. But I think once you can start being solutions-oriented, you start to see opportunities where you would never have thought. Before you know, you're just building solutions to different problems. I've worked on radio, I'm a poet as well, I'm a writer, and I write different kinds of things. So I write journalism, I write for performance, and I started performing, I started acting.
This thing, starry-eyed, head adorned in a kinky bouquet, from dancing a combi in my womb and somersaulting to praise songs, shrugging those shoulders, believing you had arrived. You would never listen. But hear me when I say, you will not be catfish. Point and kill, wriggling like a worm, devoured as prey, licked to the bone. And you must tell your daughters this tale, that they will not be catfish. Point and kill. They will not choose them like they chose me.
The way I've always seen it from myself is I'm a storyteller, but I'm just working in different mediums. But I would say that fundamentally, I think writing is the one thing that underpins all of them. Because whatever it is, whether I'm performing a piece of poetry or whether I'm acting in something, the words are the things that the foundation for everything. Whether I'm doing an interview, the words are the foundation for that piece I'm writing. Whether I'm making a radio program, the treatment I'm writing before that is fundamentally. So I think I find that fundamentally I'm a writer and I'm a communicator. So ultimately, I just do say I'm a storyteller. I'm very interested in connection. I don't believe in creating work just for the fun of it. I really believe in it speaking to someone. I think it's because a lot of the things I started doing were cathartic. So with something like poetry, it was about me trying to work my way out of depression or certain experiences, or trying to understand my human experience. And so connecting to work has always been very important to me. And so with that, I find that there are some mediums that connect to certain people, and there are some mediums that connect to certain people. So somebody who would never read a short story would watch a short film. I spent a lot of my life being suppressed by what I looked like. For instance, when I was at university, I never studied television because I thought to myself, that's career suicide. In my mind, I thought, who is going to employ a fat girl on TV? So just go and study radio, where nobody needs to see my face and I can just do the job. A point just came, I was fed up of being fed up, and I was just tired of being tired. By the time I started getting more in tune with my purpose, I forgot about all those things. Being a plus-size person working in entertainment, now probably hosting a TV show as well and trying to, act and performing on stage, I have a lot of people, say interesting things. They think, are you making a statement and those sorts of things? But I would say this, and a lot of people don't realize, I'm actually playing catch-up. Certainly, there is discrimination in the industry. I've heard at many points when I've maybe auditioned for a television show and someone has said, Nigerians don't like to see fat people on TV. So I hear all sorts of things. People never tell you to your face, but you always hear the story afterwards. One way I've been able to personally deal with that is create. It means to me, you have these skills, use it, create the work for yourself. I've also come to a place, and I think that's with age, which is that you start to accept who you are as a person. And when you start to do that, you start looking after yourself from a very different point of view. So for me, I work out, I eat right, but it's not because I want to look like what I'm told I should look like, but it's because my body is a tool and I need to be healthy to do all these wonderful things I want to do. I find that when you're not proving yourself to anyone, you find freedom. Create your own niche. Create your own ecosystem. You want to be an actor. You've not been getting the parts. Are you friends with a writer? Are you friends with a director? Do you have a few ideas? Create something. You have the internet. That's your distribution channel. Make something for yourself. My thing is just no excuses. Be skilled as well. I think a lot of people spend too much time wanting, like fantasizing about just being in front of the camera. But I think, what's your purpose? Why are you doing this? And be skilled at it. We live in a very superficial and judgmental world. The body is the first thing you encounter before you encounter the human being. So we can't pretend that doesn't exist. Yes, the personality is great. Yes, intelligence is wonderful, but people are going to see you first. However cerebral you want to think you are physical beings and we're visual beings. And you can't deny all of those things. As much as we have what is ideal in our heads, there's what is the reality. And that reality cuts across to every single one of us, including myself. When you see people, sometimes you judge them. You judge them based on what they look like. Look your best. Be comfortable. And then own it as well. I'm going to be that girl that when I walk in, you will look at me before everybody else. And I take it seriously. So I think she's becoming more self-aware. I think she's evolving. I wish she could evolve faster. The contemporary Nigerian woman has access to so much more in terms of information and stories. I wish that we could take advantage of that and understand how much more power we have right now. I'm very big on openness because I feel like that's where the connecting point is. You need to be comfortable with how much it is you're sharing. And you can't demonize somebody else for what it is they've chosen to share. I think if we could be less judgmental, we'll see it quite differently. We underestimate the impact or the effect of trauma on different people's lives and how that influences, affects, and just takes over. Sometimes you just have to let people just let it out. Rather than see people as oversharing, maybe just send them a private message and say, do you want to talk to someone? Know yourself. Don't be afraid to evolve. Just own it. Style is personality. My biggest flaw is unforgiving. One of them would be bad attitude, not being skilled, unprofessionalism. My personal philosophy of life, I would say, is stay authentic.
Such deep women. Now, since granting us this interview, Wana has been literally touring the world, meeting great people, writing us beautiful pieces. Plus, she's produced this beautiful poetry album. Have you grabbed a copy? You really should. Now, this brings us to the end of today's edition of our show. As usual, hit us up on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. Let's know what you think. Now, I'm going to be back with another interesting edition. Until then, look after yourselves and let's be kind to one another.